So good to see you guys. I love to be live. I was thinking about, how hard it is for all of us to find time to be together. We just had a retreat this past weekend, and, there's something about the warm body in the room, but Melissa Dugan was saying, it's also really beautiful to be able to be in a Zoom room together and to kind of have it to look forward to and to know that there's like an immediacy about something that's live. So it's so nice that you guys could come. I know it's hard to carve out time in your day. And I'm Suzanne Kingsbury, for those of you who don't know, most of you do know. And I'm the founder of Gateless Writing, which is a worldwide literary arts organization that was started in 2008 to give writers a kind of literary oasis, a come time, place to come to write together and to find solace and support and craft and resources and industry intel and all of those things that, the writing can feel extremely sort of mystifying for a lot of people. So Gateless was started so that we could sort of demystify the process together. And today we're doing the kickoff and the open house for the Gateless Academy for those of you who are accepted into the 2024-2025 Academy. Welcome. We're so excited to have you. The board and I were just so impressed with the applications this year. It just feels really, really incredible to have this level of writing inside the academy. And there is something that's happening with the people who have been accepted. There's sort of a confluence of talent and interest that feels just, as if it was meant to be, sort of in the stars. So that's really exciting when that happens. And I know we're going to have an incredible experience. And for the alumni who are returning this year, welcome, 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 welcome back. We're going to have an amazing experience. The Academy is very much around looking at the writing process as a lifelong practice. And it really is a spiral. So when you're in the academy, again, you see it, you see the craft, you see your work from a deeper, much different perspective. So everything will feel really new again. But, the academy that are returning are really, some of them are deep in um, their publishing journey. They've got agents, they've got publishing contracts. Some of them have to do work on their second book. Their first one's already out in the world. So it's really exciting to have you all in the mix together. And one thing that I want to say from the get-go is that, the Academy is a really level playing field. So it's true that Gateless has these very established authors in its community. We have people who have, film options and are in big media and have huge agents and all of that. But we also have people who are just starting out or people who have been creating for a long time and maybe now have an idea for a book. We have other people who have their complete raw draft written and are looking to revise it and get it out into the world. So we'll talk a little bit about that level playing field today, but we're also going to talk a little bit just about the genesis of the Academy. I want you guys to be able to ask questions about the Academy, about your work, about sort of where Gateless fits into your trajectory as a writer. Very early on, someone said to me, okay, so you're creating like a one-stop shopping place for the writer. And that's true in a very sort of base level, but the Academy is so much more than that. We really look at writing as a medium that's inspired by the divine. We consider the word a sacred practice. Getting into it is very much around sort of the shamanic journey of the spirit of the self. Telling the stories is so important to people's lives, and things open up that you can never imagine once you're inside this community. So it can be disorienting, but also exhilarating. And we'll talk about why today. The Gateless Writing Academy was started. I started as a writer, as an author. I studied with Frank Conroy, who started the Iowa Writers Workshop. Some of you might know that that's sort of the seminal program in the world for writing. And I studied with his protege, Fred LeBron. And I was really lucky to be able to study in Oxford with some of the best writers who were coming through there or who lived there. And really, craft was something that was always fascinating to me. So I never took a writing class in college. I was obsessed with books, and I thought that if I went into literature, I would literally drown and never come back because I was just, very, very much a reader from a really young age. But when I got out of college, it was almost like the writing found me, and I would do it every chance I got. I was obsessed with it. I would come home from work and write and write and write. I would work on weekends. I would take my vacations to go to writing retreats. It was just really part of almost how I breathed, even though it wasn't part of my work. So when the book came to me, shouldn't have been surprising, but it was surprising. It kind of hit me, the idea of it, and I wrote into it. And then I became very committed to that manuscript. And I think when that happens, again, it's very disorienting. The world does not support the creative process. It felt scary to put resources towards it, to put time towards it. A lot of people told me, that's not really a career. You shouldn't really be focusing on that. You should go to law school, or you should, all those things that people, well-meaning people tell you to do. But I really was very taken by it. It was almost like a lover, an illicit lover. And I did everything I possibly could for the book, not really knowing that I would become an author somehow. It was just kind of something that took me, that I couldn't say no to. And the craft and the obsession with craft sort of was applied to this work I was doing on the page. And when I got my agent, it was it felt like something that would never happen. I sort of sent out my pitch, and then I just thought, like, I'll never hear anything. And and in a week, I had 12 really big agents who wanted the book, and my book went to auction, so people were vying for it. And I wound up with a beloved editor, and she really told me in the beginning, you have something around craft and editing that's rare. And it was very helpful to me because I loved the writing process, but the craft was just, there was something about it that felt almost mathematical or scientific to me. And it was like the spirit of the creative force merging with something that felt very tactile and grounded. So all of that, went into those first two books, and they were optioned for film, and they were translated abroad, and big things happened with the books. I was showing up in like People magazine, the most beautiful People edition of People magazine. It was very big. It felt very kind of surprising. But my obsession became less about creating another book and more about, what was this? Like, what is the creative mind? How does the brain work? Why do some people create? And how do we drop into this place where we're creating something that the world loves? So there was a mystery to it to me. I felt like it was a mystery that might be unsolvable. And I wound up going to graduate school in the literary arts and creative writing at Bennington. So I'd studied at Iowa, and then I went to Bennington. And at Bennington, I started to notice that the way we taught writing in these programs was counterintuitive. There was a lot of deconstructionism. There was a lot of kind of cerebral opinion and taking apart the craft. There wasn't a lot of building up. There was a lot more taking away. And people left a lot of those workshops crying and feeling really bad about themselves and bad about their work and feeling that they couldn't do it. And this was just something that we were told we had to deal with as writers, but because I'd had that success, I knew that that wasn't true. So I dedicated my life really to the brain science of creativity and to, in some ways, proving that model wrong. And I studied, the creative brain science that was coming out of Stanford and the National Institutes of Health, Harvard, Johns Hopkins, and they were all talking about this flooding of endorphins for writers and this place where there was sort of stillness and silence and a feeling of radical nurturing from which the work came. And you could see it in how the literary masters were talking about writing and when they wrote, how they felt. And with the brain science and with all that education and craft and all the training in New York with the agent and publishers, I decided to begin experimenting with writers, new writers, emerging writers, to see what would happen if we wrote in a different way. And those writers, the first writers I worked with within a year, all had books published. And then I started getting groups together, and those writers were getting syndicated. They were having huge success. And at the same time, their lives were starting to change. So, because Gateless focuses on the power, on the strength, on the innate talent of the writer, and because they're getting a feeling of agency and confidence through resources, through craft, through industry know-how, they began to feel different in their lives. So, things that weren't working began to fall away. People were finally moving out of towns that didn't feel right for them, jobs that didn't feel right for them. And it was Gateless became a kind of movement. And the academy was started because all these writers wanted to know each other. They knew I was working with other writers. I was sort of bringing people through the same process over and over. This is how you begin. This is how you move through the critic. This is how you build a book, write a chapter, create the architecture. This is what it means to do a circular structure. This is what the architecture needs to look like in order for this book to go out and walk in the world, get an agent, get, a publishing contract, and be big. And so the academy came together because these writers wanted to know each other, and also because I was saying a lot of the same things over and over to them. And once we got that first group together, we found that it was bigger than we were. We started with 10 weeks, we were sharing work, we were doing sessions together in conference on the phone line, and then writers wanted more, and it blew out into 10 months. Now we have Gateless Academy alumni who are doing incredible work in the field. They're on big, huge stages. Their books are doing really, really well, and they come back to mentor you guys. And we have sessions together where you're asking questions about the work, each chapter, what the scene is doing. Will you get sued if you write about your brother? All these really tactile, gritty, sort of granular questions that we need answered while we're in this process that can feel mystifying. How to get an agent? Which agent should I query for my book? Where do I find this publisher? What do I do to build a platform? It's sort of A to Z. We decided to walk writers through every single thing they needed. And then in the academy, you generate work together in Terry Trespisio's New Rules studio. So you're generating together, you're hearing each other's work aloud, you're hearing where the craft is, you're hearing what other people are doing so that you can create unique work. And then we have Amber Petty coming in. She's doing a lot of the platform building, how to build a platform, how to get big media. So all of these things are working together in confluence with the core curriculum, which is those seminars that are released every single month. And there are literally hours of them, and you can listen to them on your own time. And they teach you everything from what exactly is a rough draft, how do I build it, how do I create a beginning that's page turning, what is dialogue? What is scene? Why does it work? Why are books passed on? How do I do that to my book? All of that information around how to do this. Because a lot of times we read a book and we think like, now I'm going to write a book. Now I'm done writing my book and I'm going to walk into the world. And then it gets rejected over and over and over again because writers don't have or didn't traditionally have this kind of foundation. So a lot of times you walk into a program and yeah, it deconstructs your work. It gives you a little bit of craft, sentence level craft, you're reading literature, but nobody is there to sort of explain how to build this, how to build your career as a writer. How do I build a book that the agents won't say no to? So that's how the Academy started. When it starts, you have access to a portal where you're in the portal, you get right away, you get your first seminars, and the seminars are then released every month. You get a schedule of when you're going to meet with the luminaries who are mentoring you and with me. You get entered into the studio. You find out when you're going to meet with Amber and have that intensive month with her. So it kind of all starts to work together. And there's a lot. There's a lot because it's a lot. It's like learning, it's like brain science. You are in there in order to do something that will change your life. It will change your career. So what we did when we conceptualized the Academy was to try to meet the writer everywhere. Just everywhere she turned around, we would meet her there. I need this. Okay, here it is. I need that. Here it is. I want to generate with people. Here's that. I have questions about craft. Here's that. I need to know how to do this. Here's that. So it was sort of like building a program where the writer felt completely secure, sort of in a literary womb. So that is the background, the history of it, the way it came into being. It's been, since 2015 that we built it. And since then, it has been astonishing what has happened to the writers who go through it. And, I want to say that without the community that we're inside of, yet like I facilitate it, the seminars are all from my background in the industry. They get added to all the time, depending on trends, depending on what books we need to be reading. But it really is the Gateless writing community that has kept the Academy afloat. It is worldwide. There are so many people now that are entrenched in the industry that are alumni of the Academy, or they're agents who have worked with all of you on your books. There are publishing houses who now really look for Gateless Academy alumni. What are they doing? Who can we sign? So it has become a kind of beautiful community of support. And if I don't nod to that, I'm not nodding to this sort of the thing that makes the wheel turn. It's been amazing. So I'm really glad you guys are here. I feel like most of the open house is about asking questions, and the pieces that you can ask about range from anything, really anything. Like, what are you working on? What do you have questions about? You can ask, like, I'm at this process in my writing. Does it make sense for me to do this, or should I be doing something else? Really anything that you have in relationship to it as someone who's approaching the Academy. If you're already accepted, I know it's overwhelming. As soon as you get in, it's like, oh my God, I have this whole portal to sort of discover. But just remember that portal is going to be open for you for 10 months. So you're not going to swallow the whole meal, the whole feast. And what you want to know and sort of rely on is that we're here for you now. You're not alone in your process. There's someone there for you at every turn to answer any question that you have, so that you have somebody to hold your hand, so that you don't feel like, oh my God, I hope I'm doing this right. Am I wasting my time? Am I wasting my resources? There's always going to be someone there that you can turn to and ask a question and get fed. So you really want to remember at the beginning of the Academy, we try to roll it out as slowly as we can so that you guys won't get overwhelmed. Like, you don't join studio until January 1st. Some of you are in studio already, because that is independent of the Academy as well. But, there are ways in which we try to really sort of ease you into the academy so that you won't feel like you have to do everything at once. And people are busy, that do the academy. I was just writing to someone today who was like, "Oh my God, I'm a working mom. Will I have time to do this?" You will. You really will. It's so relaxing once you get into it because you're finally held and you finally feel like you have a backbone to do this. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're not sort of swimming around wondering where the life raft is. It's here, you're on it. So you can kind of relax and know like if you don't get to everything, if you can't get to studio one week, that's okay. You know what I mean? You'll get to it next week. If you can't listen to the seminars this week, there are 3 more weeks. If you can't get to our call together, it's okay. That's why it's longer, so that you can kind of take your time because so much of the writing process is gestational. You want time. You want time to live your life and let the subconscious sort of bring you ideas, bring you scenes. But I think part of writing that can be so hard is that in this larger herd of the overarching culture, there isn't a lot of support for doing something like this. And so you want a home, you want a family that you can come to and they'll say, like, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right track, it's okay. I know you feel doubtful, but don't feel doubtful. You have something really incredible. And every single person who applies is supposed to be in the academy who gets accepted. We're really looking at that. We won't accept someone unless we feel like this is viable. You're going to be able to do this. And so we might write and say like maybe in a few years but if you're into the academy, you know that you can do this. So don't feel like you can't. Don't feel like somehow like, oh my God, what if I don't? You will. You will do it. It's been proven again and again and again and again that you can do this. So I think overall, if you can start asking questions that sort of have been niggling at you, um, you'll notice that people who have questions have the same questions as you do. You know what I mean? So you're really able to ask a question that other people will be very happy that you asked. So maybe don't hold back at all in terms of what you're asking. Really let us, feel free to let us know what's in there. So I see some in the chat. Um, Oh, hi, Kate Cheney. She's an alumni. I'm so happy you're here, sweetheart. I know. I'm so grateful. I know it's wild, right? All the tech that we have to get to know in such a short time. But we're doing it. We're doing it. Kate Baldwin says, Gateless has completely changed the trajectory of my life over the years. My first journey through the academy gave me so much more than even my MFA. Yeah, we're so happy to have you here, love. She was just at retreat with her Gateless buddies this past weekend. So Kate Cheney, the schedule will be released in the next few days on the portal. So what we're going to do this year. You guys have a call with Tara Nicole Kirk next week. Some of you know her. She's an incredibly accomplished. Speaker and writer who's been on just world stages talking about the critic. And she and I have a very similar understanding of how to navigate the critic and how subtle it is, what a trickster it is. So she's coming to speak on October 30th at 12 p.m. and we will send out information on that in the Zoom link. And you will continue to have each week during the next month and a half meetings with luminaries or with me. So we'll send those all out. And what we're doing this time, Kate, is we're not going to do it only on one day at one fixed time. We're going to move those calls around because people have such busy lives. And what we were finding when we did one fixed time all the time was that there were some people who could never make the time. Like Kelly Anderson, she's a doctor and she was like, well, I can never make the call because we have an all team meeting on Mondays at noon. So this will kind of accomplish that need to meet everyone's schedule where they are. And what we're doing now as we read through the applications is that we curate the academy to meet those applications. So I can see, especially from, from your writing sample, but also from what you say in those answers to those questions, which are so helpful, I can kind of see where you are and what you're going to need in terms of the luminaries, in terms of our sessions together, which are quite open. We want to make sure that you guys get um, everything you need in terms of the academy this year. So those sessions that we have together are very intense. They're very intimate. You can send me anything beforehand. Like, I'm going to send you my first paragraph. Can you tell me if it's like, am I starting at the right place? I'm going to send you the ending to this chapter. I don't know if it's like enough of a cliffhanger. I don't know if I should take the mother out of that scene. Like, really, you can go very granular in terms of those questions when we meet together. So those sessions are always like, we never know what's going to happen, but they're always very beautiful. Sometimes we have tears. A lot of times we laugh really hard, but they're really fun. Um, okay, let's see what else you guys have here. Oh my God, Kimberly's here. Kimberly Escamilla, such a life-changing experience for me. I was able to complete my first draft and I love the other writers, such a supportive community. Thank you so much, Kimberly. Kimberly is an incredible writer and is using the Gateless method in classrooms and with parents. And yeah, we're really lucky to have you in the community. So the portal opens for people who have gotten an acceptance and paid their deposit. It should be open today. So if for some reason you haven't gotten your password for the portal yet, just let us know. Um, and we can send that to you. See if sure. All right, who else? Yeah, the portal opens today, Kate Baldwin. Kate Newfield, happy to have you here, love. Very glad you're here. Heather probably sent you your portal password, but yeah, we recognized Kate right away. She asked so many great questions in the luminary calls that we had, pre-registration luminary calls. Um, Sandra, that's such a good question. So Sandra's asking, and welcome to the Academy, Sandra. We're so happy you're here. Is it recommended or not to join the studio before January? I have to say, I always recommend the studio. I think it's an incredible incubation spot to be in. And you can write us and we can kind of send you how to get in there before the Academy, starts the studio for ourselves in January. So when you join the academy, the studio is included in your tuition for the academy, and it starts we start January 1st, and we go, I think it's 5 or 6 months with that those are the studio classes are available to you every single week. So you have 3 a week, and there are gateless teachers who teach them. They all have different areas of expertise. They're all geniuses at feedback. And if you can go to the studio before then, like just join, for the month of November and December, and then obviously, the academy starts paying for you for it January. If you can go before that, I would highly recommend it because what the studio does so brilliantly is it is working with that brain science. So you go in, you get dropped into this theta brain state that the teachers take you to, and you're given a prompt that has to do with really kicking off something extremely creative in the writer. And then you write for maybe 20 minutes, and it's amazing what you get done in that 20 minutes in the theta brain state. So even if you're rewriting scene, like if you're in revision, it's really important to go. And then some people will read aloud after that, after it's done. It's only an hour, and some people will read aloud. And it's really important for you guys to be listening to work in progress while you're working on your books. You want to know, how are other people expressing themselves? What's out there? What are the trends? What feels like it's overdone? What do I love about what these people did? How are people doing dialogue? How are they kicking off their scene? Why do I like this work? Because every time you hear work in progress and you're finding what you love about it, you're going to turn around and do it on the page. That's how the reticular activating system in the brain works. So the more you can listen to people reading aloud and finding what has power and what has strength in that, the really the better your craft becomes. It's the fastest way to create better craft. It's amazing what it does. Um, Sarah Johnson, I joined last fall during my first academy, and it helped me get momentum going, and I love the community. So she's talking about, hi, Sarah. I love you, honey. So she's talking about the uh, the studio, doing the studio at the same time. And again, if you don't want to do it before January, that's totally fine. You know, you'll start January um, first. So Dara's asking, how do the portals work? So essentially you get a password once you're accepted and you've paid your deposit and all of that is sort of administration is set. You'll get a password for the portal. You move into the portal and you're going to get sort of an overview of the academy in writing, which is really helpful, and a welcome letter. And then you'll get seminars, luminary calls, a session with me that are all recorded and you can listen to them. There are like 120 hours in there of really everything you need to compete in the industry, to write the book, to craft the book, to keep you going when the critic gets sort of noisy. It's incredible. Reading lists, agents' names, how to build a proposal, like literally everything is in there. So you enter the portal and you get that first month. And this month is specifically on the critic. So it's released the last week of the month. So that's why it's released today if you've been accepted. But say you apply and you don't get accepted until, the end of November, you're still going to get everything, it's there. It's always there then. It's like Peloton or whatever. Like, I can take any class I want. I can go in there and route around. And then there's also the live component, which is like meetings with me, meetings with the luminary, going to studio at the end of the program, studying with Amber Petty, who gets you into the big, she's like the last month of the program. She gets you into big media, shows you how to pitch. There's just it's very, very comprehensive, but that's how the portal works. And we will be sending you, like, don't forget, you have a call next week with Suzanne, and we're going to talk craft and bring your questions, send her things beforehand. What's going on with your manuscript? Sort of that's where we collect as a group. So the pods, we used to have writing pods, and the pods are now studio. So it used to be that instead of meeting in the immediacy of a time period together, you would write in a Google Doc and then somebody would read it and comment. And it just got extremely laborious for people. And there is something that happens when you get dropped into the theta state with a gateless teacher and you write for 20 minutes and then there's immediate feedback that will propel the book forward in a way that, like, waiting for someone to comment in the pods, um, not the same feeling. So we're really lucky to have yeah, to have studio. Um yeah, Allison. I think, she's saying she has a first draft completed and she's going through a professional manuscript review and she needs to hear how specifically the Academy helps people move forward, what it does at each step towards publishing. Well, the Academy is teaching you how to giving you all the agency you need to build that book, right? So even if, say, you have a draft already, what the Academy does is you go in and your first first thing you do is to figure out what to do when the doubts come, right? You have to have that. No writing program or manuscript review editor or anyone like that should do anything with you before you understand the critic. The critic is deep in the psyche. It is a result of the overarching culture. We believe it comes from us, but we weren't born with it. We really need to know how that works. How does it operate? What does it say? It's extremely subtle. It's not necessarily thought. It can be feeling, it can be jealousy, it can be a sense of inertia. So really, 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 those beginning seminars, you can't really do anything until you go into them. They're, for people, they are life-changing. They can really, that first session of seminars, that first month of seminars can literally change your life because of how it finally gets to the blocks and the doubts and the walls and like why people actually don't finish their books. And it happens all the time. And then you can walk through your manuscript with the Academy. So while manuscript reviews can be helpful, they don't teach you craft. And you will get out of the manuscript review and have no real idea of how to craft a book. What you really need as a writer, and the publishing world is going to look for this, is how did you craft this book? How did you know how to do the beginning? Why is the beginning compelling? What happened right before the book started for the characters or the memoir narrator in order to propel this forward? If you don't have a kicker, you don't have a book. Where is the global frame in the book? How are you building the characters? How are they revealing themselves? How are you layering the book? Where are the scene pods that create the pearl necklace that goes all the way up to this climax that makes it so there's a crescendo that is around why the reader passes the book on? If you don't know these craft points, if you don't know how to apply those to your manuscript, the industry is going to spit you out. They're just going to spit you out. And if you can't sit there across from an editor, an acquisitions editor at a major publishing house and explain the craft of your book, why did you name your characters those things? Why did you merge these two characters? Or why are there these many characters? Why did you start this chapter like that? Why is chapter 8 there and not at the beginning? You want to know your craft so well that you can sit there and explain every decision that you've made. So with a raw draft coming into the academy, you want to take that book and apply everything you're learning. So you're going to learn a whole month on beginnings. How do you begin the book? How do you begin each chapter? How do you begin the scenes? How do you introduce characters? Why is that important? Do you slow down when you introduce a major character, or should you speed up? How much do you go into gestures at the beginning? What are you actually telling them about backstory? When are you telling it? How do you weave backstory instead of dumping it? All of that is in the beginning, and you want to go through the book and look at every part of your book in terms of beginnings. And then there'll be a whole month on character building. Why are some characters so viscerally exciting in the memoir or in the novel? Why do I want to follow this person? What is it about their voice? Why do I love them? Why do I fall asleep at night thinking about them? What makes a character compelling? You take that craft out of the academy and you apply it and you apply it and you apply it, and you show up at these sessions and you ask the questions. I don't know if I'm doing this character right. I don't even know if I need this character there. What do you think? Why should I doubt this? Am I doubting it, or is this my editor? You want to be able to talk about your manuscript. Sometimes when we give the manuscript to someone else, it's like we're giving away all our agency and frankly, a lot of money. And we're just saying like, oh, you take it and do the thing with it. And then somebody asks you to write a second book and you feel frozen. I don't know how to craft it. So you really want to work with the book and really know this craft. Like once I got to New York, I had no problem sitting across from those 12 agents. And they would say, well, why didn't you kill off Riley? Well, these are the reasons. The craft wouldn't have supported that. This is why. I needed to really know the craft and feel, they wanted to feel like I can trust this person. I want to give her the first book deal and the second book deal and the third. You know what I mean? So you want to just, you don't have to, but it's like incredible when you commit yourself to the book and the craft of this book and knowing the book and having a relationship with it. And those are the writers that really spring out and take the world by a storm and people pay attention. It's, craft is king. It really is king. There's nothing like it. Okay, so Kelly Anderson, who just was in the academy, just had about 12 agents, 13 agents, I think, who wanted her book. She picked her favorite. Kelly Anderson, I thought this to myself, speaking of the last question, lots when I was going into the academy with a book I'd already revised 4 times. I think I underestimated the way I needed to change the architecture of my brain. It's very important. And my relationship to my creativity. So this will all happen in Gateless, to be able to rewrite it. And then how to send it out with my own true voice, not the voice of the critic in my head. I still probably underestimate the way Gateless can re-architect our brains. Yeah. I mean, that's something that's hard to talk about, right? The gateless methodology, there's nothing else that really looks at the brain in the same way and works with the creative brain. It is actually a current that you start swimming in when you're in gateless and you start to think like a creative. You start to approach the work like a creative. You start to approach the world like that. And Kelly Anderson came into this program with a commitment to the work. It was like she was in love with the work. And I think there's something around that we have a resistance to it because of the overarching culture. We have a resistance to falling in love with the creative. And it isn't that, okay, at the end of the 10 months, I'm going to have a book and I'm going to have an agent, I'm going to have a publishing deal. I mean, that happened to Kelly. It doesn't have to happen like that. It can be that you swim around in the craft and you fall in love with the craft and you take your time with the book. It's a lover. You're like making love to it. You know what I mean? And so for this very goal-oriented culture, you can go at it with that goal and no, I'm going to do this and I'm going to work every single month and I'm going to make it happen. Or there are some people that are like, I am swimming in this. I want to give everything I can to it. I'm not ready to put a package on it yet. I want to be inside these characters and these scenes and the global frame. I want to learn craft in this way. So I studied craft for 7 years. And people kept telling, you should publish your books. Oh my God, your writing is amazing. You should go. And I was like, I don't want to. I'm having a relationship that's like amazing with these characters, with this book, with the setting, with everything in it. I'm learning as much as I can in order to give these characters a home that they can feel solid in, and then I'll go out and I'll sell it. So it very much is what Kelly's saying. It changes the architecture of your brain. So, Genoa, I have a novel that's at a certain stage, but I also have a full-time job. Yes, that's the reality for most people, where I do other kinds of writing, teaching, and listening to student writing myself. The other job takes a lot of time and energy. Yes, I understand. It's realistic to be in the academy while the majority of my time is consumed elsewhere. I mean, honestly, what else are we going to do? You know what I mean? It's like, don't wait to do your writing. Alumni come back to the academy because it's very inexpensive to come back and it feels good. It's sort of like saying, do I have time to breathe? Do I have time to meditate? Do I have time to exercise? Do I have time to be with my friends? Do I have time to make love? Do I have time to eat great food? Like, it is so fun, you guys. There's like, yes, there's a goal to it, but it is a blast. Like the people you meet, and you can do it any old time. Like people listen to the seminars while they're like loading the dishwasher at night or taking a walk or brushing their teeth, or you know what I mean? And then you're learning all the time and you're getting these ideas, these sort of light bulb moments of like, oh my God, I know what I want to do with that character. I know how I'm going to end that scene. It's just a way to add the imaginal and the sort of the memoir construction and the highlights of the book. It's a way to add those in, to be inside it all the time, to know that you have a community. Yeah. Is it open enrollment? It is open enrollment. You send us, I mean, Kristen, I know you're writing now. Kristen was just at retreat and it is freaking incredible. She's an amazing writer. So, for people that have been on retreat, just write to me because I know your work, so you don't have to upload like that part of the application and we can kind of talk back and forth. It's really for people that I don't know that it's very helpful to get why they want to come, what they're looking for. So that part of it is really, really helpful, but I already know your work. So so that part of it is, you can just skip that part of the application and just write the other parts. But yes, we keep it open until about the 15th of December. And then it's closed because then studio starts and then you really start with these very intensive sessions with me and you know what I mean? And it's hard to catch up after that point. So if you want to spend some time thinking about it, the academy will though get very full. And if it gets too full, we close it off. So we open rolling admissions until that happens. Um, yeah, and Kate Baldwin wrote something about that. How many people are in the academy? It depends how many applications we get that are sort of they work together. So all of you who are submitting application, we really look at the writing to figure out like is this group cohesive with one another? Is each writer really committed to the writing? Like, there is something around how we relate to the writing is the same way we relate to ourselves. And we're looking for writers who are kind of in love with their concept, in love with their memory. They have some kind of mission-driven agenda for writing the book, or they're in the novel and they're obsessed with the imaginal and how to create the world. And so there is this kind of like a passion almost with the people who come to Gateless and want to work on the book. It's not transactional with the work. They know that they want to get somewhere. They're often very high achieving, but there's some feeling that they're feeling people. There's a way in which we get together and we're feeling into our books, and that keeps you driven and disciplined. So you're not meeting with a lot of people who are harsh, who are kind of, critical, deconstructing you, judging what you're doing at all. It's like we're all really supportive of one another. So we do look for that. Um, yeah, I will. Mariska, or someone will drop a link here about the studio so you can join it now. If you've done a recent retreat or teacher training, I believe there's like some kind of like, Terry has created um, a portal for you guys so you can do it easily. So I want to check with her as well. But if you want studio, we'll put a little link in here and then let me know if you've done a recent, like Mariska just got trained as a Gateless teacher. So she probably will be able to join in a different capacity. That's such a good question, Sonia, and I'm happy you're here. Great to see you. To maximize this experience, how often should we write and for how long? So one thing that Gateless has found in doing some of the research on for writers on the creative process is that the creative brain can do a lot. If you're in a theta brain state, it can do a lot in like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You can get a tremendous amount written. So, like Daisy Florin counted up the words that she did at retreat. She was in 8 half-hour sessions. So, 4 hours, she wrote 8,000 words. That's a tremendous output. And then she had fun. She went on walks, she went to the bookstore, we went to the labyrinth on the beach, we were feasting, laughing. She was staying up all night with her Gateless friends. Like it's very easy to get into this idea that I need all day. I need to take time off from my life. And maybe you have that luxury and you can do that. But if you can't, you actually can set aside an hour a week and get a book done in a year. It's amazing what you can get done when you realize that all you have to do is drop down. So the thing that creates a lot of extra time is the critic. And the critic is not sort of what you hear on the internet. The critic is a much different mind state that most people don't understand. And it's very, very hard to disempower it if you don't understand the sort of mechanics of it. And it's, as I said, the first thing we deal with in the portal because it is so sneaky and it will honestly keep you stuck and sort of writing work that isn't interesting and gets rejected for years. So dealing with that is really important. And once you have, and you will, once you get into the academy, you can drop in pretty quickly once you understand how that works, and you will find that you are creating work very quickly that actually is very powerful. So Sheena Cook, who was in the academy, and she got her book together, she sent it to her agent, and her agent said, I'm going to tell you the parts of this that work. And she pointed out the pieces in the book that she wanted more of. And they were all the pieces were pieces she wrote in Gateless. It was like she dropped in and she just went for it. And that theta brain state, once you're reconditioned in that theta brain state, you will find that you need much less time to write. Let's see. Yeah, so Kate Cheney is saying Gateless and Terry's studio. So Terry is a Gateless trained teacher. She's been through the academy 3 times, and she's a best-selling author. She's like, really has done amazing things with Gateless. Truly spurred tremendous growth in my writing and confidence in my ability. Yes, that's so true. Let's see. So Sarah Johnson's saying, the academy has helped me to break through 20 years of academic higher education scar tissue. This is big. This is big for people who've been in corporate as well. And I have finished one academic article published in a Brazilian journal in June and have another article that was fraught with critic drama well underway. This has been life-changing for me, and I have a lot of other writing that I'm thinking about how to package. Yeah, I mean, you guys, sometimes you go through Gateless and so much that isn't working is falling away in your life. Like you're learning craft and you're in your work. But the other thing that's happening is your life is changing in this beautiful way. You're coming into these brand new, big, huge landscapes. And they might not look external. They could be very internal. And so you kind of let yourself have that experience. It's like going across an open field on this like wild mare that just wants you to ride it. And then things start happening. It's like, oh, and now everything's happening that I thought was going to happen. But people have incredible experiences with this journey. Casey Aaron Wood, nice, so nice to have you here, sweetheart. She's a Gateless trained teacher and has been through the academy and is an incredible writer. Listening for craft and others writing in the studio has an absolutely incredible effect on my writing. Yeah. Yeah, it is. And that is really, truly a huge part of any writing program. It should be. Okay, so it's such a good question, Dara, how much experience you need before joining the academy. I mean, I think it really depends on if the academy is drawing you. Is there some whisper that is it a quickening? Do you feel like, oh my God, I've got to go towards this? Because honestly, once I really started to write my own book, it took me less than 6 months to write it. It was like I was ready. I didn't have anything published. I didn't know how to do it really, but it was like I felt sort of a calling. It was like it was a quickening inside the self, and I kind of couldn't say no to it. And I never thought that it would go anywhere. I just kind of was ready. And if I had had the academy then, it would have taken me a lot less time to revise it. It took me a while because I didn't have anything like this. And I didn't really know about the critic, the theta brain state. I didn't know craft. I was kind of having to piecemeal it together from all over the place. And people were reading the work and then they were really opinionated and they didn't actually know what they were talking. It's just sort of like, it's like I want to do this thing, but I'm actually getting stopped and sort of can't find that fluidity. And so I think if you're ready, you'll know. It will just feel like, oh my God, I want to do this. And case in point, like when Jennifer Waite sent me A Beautiful, Terrible Thing, which is, a memoir that did very, very well on the world stage. She's a Gateless Academy alum. It was like she hadn't known what she was doing. She kind of just sat down and wrote it and wrote it. And she was like, "Am I ready?" And it was like, "Yeah, oh my God, you're completely ready. You know what I mean? You don't need to worry about whether I'm ready." So it's sort of, is the story knocking on your door? Is it kind of asking to come out? And truthfully, it could have been there for years. and gestating and sort of forming itself and creating an architecture. And then you sit down to write and you get all the craft and all the support from the academy and it just kind of happens. So I would say it's really up to you. You know, it's like, are you ready? Do you feel ready? Is it calling you? Are you feeling that like intuitive hit of like, oh my gosh, I feel this? Maybe my rational mind is a little nervous, but the rest of me really feels it. Yeah, and Casey's saying I re-listen to the seminars all the time, driving, walking, lying in the sun. Yeah, people really use them as sort of a Bible. You know, it's very, very helpful to have it. So Ellie, you're asking, I've been working on a book that gets into the how to make life changes to fortify vital health for longevity. Wow, that sounds fascinating. That touches on the Western medical practices, but there's also a spiritual, philosophical aspect. Nice, including storytelling. Good, good. You need that. That brings in ancient wisdom. Excellent. And that's very on trend right now in publishing. And I'm getting lost. Okay, we'll see if you're actually getting lost in thinking I may be writing a second book. Okay, this, this happens a lot. I'm wondering if Gateless can help support this type of book writing, nonfiction, to help build up the architecture of the books such that it's approachable to read, but also doesn't box me into the medical scientist researcher and instead helps me to expand into this new area of my life where I'm more free to share on spirituality and philosophy. Yes. You know, one thing that writers often think before they get into sort of a writing program and learn how to do it is that it has to be one thing. Okay, I'm either doing this or I'm doing that, because everything's very compartmentalized in our world. But that's not how a book works, and it's not how it sings, and it's not how it sells. You want that weave. You have to have it. You have to have it or it won't sell in today's world. So what's happening, Ellie, I think, is that your internal editor is starting to see that this can be bigger. So maybe it's a second book. That sometimes happens and it's fine to happen. You can write two books simultaneously. People do it in the academy all the time. But it may be that the book is starting to burst out of you. It's like, oh, I want to do stories, but I'm going to bring in some research, but I'm actually going to bring in this wider frame of the spiritual, the philosophical, the ancient wisdom, and I'm going to move them all together. And until you get craft, that can feel like it is a tsunami. It's like, I don't know what to do with all this. Ah, and it's actually the best problem you can have. And that's what the academy gives you. It's like, what do I do with all this? How do I manage it? Where do I put it? There is such a clear way to organize information chapter by chapter by chapter that can feel very fluid and patterned to the reader, but in fact you have so many different facets in there because honestly there are 17 writers in all of us and they all want their say on the page and they can have it. And once you have craft and once you have that agency and that solidity and that foundation of this is how you do it, you will find that the book will be so much more than you ever thought it could be. This is such a good problem. It's like you've had the breakthrough. The book trusts you. The book is coming out. It has an intelligence all itself, and it's telling you you can do this. You're an author of something much bigger than you ever believed. It's a fantastic, fantastic, fantastic question. Kate Cheney, I'm a swimmer. This is my second trip through the academy. We're so happy you're here, Katie. There's so much for me to explore and sort through. If I thought I had to meet a deadline for a book, I would just give up. Yes, that's very common. That's why the academy works for me. I have the space, resources, and support to keep swimming, exploring, and begin to pull on threads that make sense. Yes. One day the book will short forms will emerge, but for now, this gives me the space to grow. Exactly. Just a little of my experience for those worried about having a book. Yeah. I mean, after a while, you guys will see like the writing as a medium is the kindest, most beautiful oracle. It's a friend. It's a place that you can put things. Once you have craft, it gives you agency with this incredible medium. It has been the spiritual tool since ancient times of how we make sense of who we are, our humanity. And what emerges is often a book. and a book that can do so well on the world stage. But you want to swim like Kate Chaney has been doing, just swim in it. It is so radically nurturing to look at writing in this way. If you're here, you were born under the sign of the scribe. It's like the most exciting thing. I've been in rooms where no one is a writer, 200 people in there, no one is a writer, and I feel so bad for them. If you have studio, do you need to tell me? Um, automatically, Farah, it will start, it will come. Your studio will begin to be paid for, so you don't have to tell me. But I'm glad you're here, and I love that you're telling me. I love you. I'm so happy you're doing it again. Um, yeah, so Helen, hi, sweetheart. Any thoughts about working on more than one piece or novel at a time? Go to what's calling you, honey. Go to where the energy is. It's like, the books will be at different places, right? So one will need revising and the other one will need building, and they'll call to you at different times. And while you're working on the revision for this, that one in the subconscious is going to be building itself. And while you're building this one and generating and exploring and like going wild with it, trying things out and that one will be organizing itself in the subconscious. So try not to, the hard thing about this, writing isn't hard, but what's really hard is that the overarching culture is telling you like you have to think like this in this linear sort of patriarchal way, and you have to have a goal and reach a goal, and this is how many times, and then you outline it like this, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you know what I mean? Because the creative is like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, there's going to be a limb. It'll grow here and a limb there and a limb there and some leaves. And then, then we'll grow some roots. And then, wow, you have an incredible maple tree and you can be in the shade and swing your hammock. And it is a thing. You know what I mean? But it grows much differently than I would say pretty much anything else grows in the world. Although, if you look at like how you build a house, it's kind of very similar. It's like, I'm going to put the room up here, then I'm going to do the scaffolding. It's layered. It's very layered. Um, so yeah. Yes, she's tapping on the next book. Ah, Melissa, so happy to have you back. She was in the retreat for a retreat for the first time this weekend. It was so great to see you. I love your writing, honey. Incredible writing, very salacious and like delicious. Um, Okay, John, I'm so happy John Lincoln is here. I wanted to say this is my fourth go at the Academy. I know you do become kind of addicted to the community. I'm well into my second draft of my memoir, and it's due to having Gateless as an approach to keep me invigorated, informed, in connection, and in the creative room beyond the critic. Yes, I'm taking my time, and it's paying off incredibly, all due to Gateless. Okay, yeah, and me, that's true, actually writing. I can't wait to be on the page with you all. I cannot wait to be with you either, honey. I'm so happy. He says you'll meet people who'll become your friends for life. That's very true. People meet in the academy, they go on book tour together, they give each other, they're giving each other agent names, and it's like, and it's also like you go on vacation together, you meet each other's families, you fall in love. Amy Grapple, hi, I'm so happy you're here. Can you clarify how much time is recorded session and how much time is interactive on Zoom, and if anything is in person? We do try to meet once a year in New York. So if you can make it, it would be great. I got a little sloughed up because of the pandemic, but we're gonna reinstate that. We have a Gateless Academy alum who has membership at a great club in New York. But let's see. So we are interactive on Zoom. I mean, you'll have the studio, which is live, and that's immediate. So you'll be there. You can be there as many times as you want. You can go to all three live writing sessions if you want a week, or you can go to one, or you can skip them, if you can't find the time. And then with me, we and the luminaries, we're going to meet once every other week. So we'll be on all the time, but giving you time to write, giving you time to listen to the craft session so you know what you're asking. And then you can send me stuff before we meet. You know what I mean? Like people send me stuff all the time. They're like, hey, can you look this over before we meet? I just want to talk about X, Y, or Z, or like, I'm having trouble. I feel like this is kind of rambling. I don't know how to like tie it up, like anything, the granularness of craft. And the more that you can ask questions and sort of make use of the academy, the more you'll find that it works for you. It just does. You start to see the whole building of a book is actually really scientific. Like it's really mathematical. And once you start to understand those equations and the balances and the craft tools, it becomes so fun. You know, you'll be like, "Oh my God, I wanted to use this craft tool here. Do you think it's better there? Is this working?" You know, we can talk in a language. It's almost like learning another language, and it gives you so much power in terms of doing the work. Before that, you'll see it, you'll look back and be like, "God, I felt so foggy and sort of vague about what I was doing, and now kind of I really know what I'm doing." But Amy, there's so many craft seminars in there, so you're going to be able to dip in anytime you need a little love and a little like tactile, grounded guidance. You'll be able to go in there. Yeah, yeah, Katie. Yeah, Kate Newfield. That's a great question. She said, "I'm a recovering rule follower." I always kind of wished I was a rule follower. If and when I go to studio, is it okay to just write for 20 minutes on my book and ignore the prompt? Ignore the prompt because you'll get into that theta state and then it's like whatever rises, you just meet it. The prompt doesn't matter. It's just there. Yeah. So Casey's saying, I ignore the prompt all the time. Everyone ignored me at retreat by the end. They were like, "Oh, I don't need that prompt." I'm like, going for it. Um, Kelly says, "I was supposed to write about traffic and I wrote about cuddling on Tuesday." You would, Cal. And Kate Newfield says, "Haha, I was there and I loved your writing. I didn't even notice it was off prompt." And Serena, hi lady. The prompt is always very much a suggestion. You can write about absolutely anything you want. So Serena Eastman is one of the awesome Gateless teachers who teaches in the studio, and people absolutely love her. And her writing is freaking unbelievable. Traffic induced cuddling. Um, Vicky, Suzanne, you rock. Gotta go. All right, bye, honey. Denise Cox is here. So Denise Cox was in the Academy last year. She has a really, really great agent and a publishing contract, book contract with Atria Simon and Schuster, and she's coming back this year to work on the book. Can't wait to be here with you. Um, yeah, Ellie, it was such a good question. She says, I feel you just emphasize exactly where I'm living in this writing. That's so great. Yeah. Um, yeah, Amy, you can join the studio anytime, honey. It's part of the academy, but it's also separate from it, so you can join that anytime. Katie says, "Just being in the gateless calls is like a hug for the nervous system." That's exactly right. We're built to ease that nervous system into a place of real relaxation so that the fight or flight can go away and you can create like mad. Just listening to gateless language rewires my brain. That's right. She's an academy alum and also a gateless trained teacher and can turn around my day, yes, and my writing in 1 hour. Something I didn't grasp the first time around in academy. Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Ah, okay. All the gateless trained teachers are saying hello to each other and loving each other up. Kate Newfield. My spouse feels caught off guard by me jumping into this, but I just keep feeling like I found my people. I feel lit up. You found your people. I know it does feel like that. It's so great to have community. Serena's dad was writing a book about like what technology does to us, and it basically like ruins our sense of community. But here we are. And yeah, Kate, I know the spouses sometimes are confused by us, but here we are. And Melissa says, ditto, I found my people. Yeah, these are such great questions, you guys. I'm so happy you're all here and like asking the questions and not feeling too vulnerable to ask them. Anything else, you guys, that you can think of? So the Academy portal opens today for the people who have sort of applied, been accepted, and done their admin. But But you can apply. You can think about it. You can write me and ask me questions or ask to, have a quick session about it if that makes sense. I know it's a big thing to commit to your writing. We are very lucky to have the Academy is underwritten by an angel investor out of Boston, and they support libraries and literary arts organizations across New England, and they have been supporting us for years. The one person in the family is a Gateless trained teacher, and so the program actually costs almost $10,000 more to run than we charge for it. So I don't know how long that will go on. We're just like very happy to have it. But we also have payment plans for people. So, it winds up being that you can kind of not have to pay the whole thing at once if that doesn't feel doable right now. It is a $1,500 deposit, but then afterwards you pay $500 a month. So it's not like, oh my God, I have to come up with this big amount of money. And you will find, like Serena said to me the other day, no one ever regrets the academy. You just don't regret it. It is an investment that will literally change your life and create a feeling in you that you've never known before. And you'll reach heights in terms of your creative output, your understanding of yourself as a creative, your understanding of craft that is impossible for me to describe for you. It just does happen once you're in this community. And I think because it's so hard to describe, it can be very scary to commit. And so you just write to me and tell me I'm scared. It's normal. It's very normal to be scared of something this big and to be scared of entering into a relationship with your writing when everybody sort of scoffs at it. Nobody probably has maybe said, like, you're going to be able to do this. You can do this. People do it all the time. There are so many books out there that are doing really well. And, there are 6,000 agents in the world. Like, you're going to be able to do it. So, knowing that you have somewhere to go that will give you that agency, the craft, the resources, the network, I think can really ground the work in a way that's impossible to feel before you come in. So Sonia's saying, I write a lot, but what happens is I'm writing for my future blog or my podcast. Yes, that's normal. And then I think this is for my book. Does content overlap? It does. It overlaps a lot. How does that work with publishers? For example, is it wrong to have published once and then in the book? No, not at all. So if you turn to like Louise Erdrich's book of short stories, for example, you'll find in the beginning where she says like, thanks to all these people who published these before they were here. It's normal. Like we're moving content around all the time, right? We're writing for our list, our email list, and then we're taking that back and we're putting in the book. It's still out there. And publishers expect that in this day and age because content is everywhere. All we're doing all day really is reading. And that's why writing has gotten so big. That's why publishing out of all the industries is doing so well. That's why books are still selling because people are reading like crazy. That's pretty much like all we're doing. So yes, it's totally fine. Um, okay, from Sunny. I write a lot, but what happens? Oh yeah, she said that. That's from Heather. She repeated it. Okay. Yeah, so we're gonna try to let you guys go now because we've gone quite a bit over. But if you have questions, just send them to my email. I'm gonna put it in the chat, the Gateless Academy email, and we get a lot of applications for the program. So if it takes us a couple of days to get back, that's all we're doing. We're just kind of fielding the inbox. But let us know what questions you have, what you don't feel clear on. It's totally fine to ask as many questions as you have. So it's gatelessacademy@gmail.com. It's super easy. If you've been sitting on the fence for a while and you have sort of something that is keeping you on the fence, then let's talk about it and let's see, is this something that we want to consider that might not be a good thing for you, or is this something that like is part of the critical mind or whatever? But I'm so glad you're here, that you came. Thank you so much. And just a little encouragement that this, you know, if the book has hit you up or if writing is swirling around you, there's a reason for it. There's a real reason for it. It's not something to turn away from. And if you give yourself to writing, it will give you 1,000,000,000 things in return. It really will. It's an incredible medium. So thank you guys for coming. So happy to have you here.